If you search leaving Dallas right now, you will see a lot of people asking the same questions. Is it still worth it? Has it gotten too expensive? Is it too crowded, too hot? And I'm gonna give you my honest answer, not just the version that is trying to sell you on staying, and not just the version that's trying to scare you into leaving, just what is actually happened. And a lot has changed in the past year since I made this video on the 13 reasons why people are leaving Dallas. Some of the things I talked about have gotten better and some have gotten significantly worse. And there are a couple of new ones that weren't really on the radar last time. And I think they are really important to talk about. So this is the updated version, the top 10 reasons people are leaving DFW in 2026. Hi, I'm Dee Walton, your local Dallas realtor, and I help people buy, sell, and relocate to the DFW area. And if you're new here and you are wondering why people are leaving Dallas, then this video is for you. So we're gonna be counting down from 10 to 1, with the number 1 being the reason I'm hearing most often from people who are actually made the decision to leave. And I'll tell you up front, some of these are not the reasons that you'll actually expect. So number 10 is gonna be that remote work has changed. And it's actually changed the math, it's changed people's lifestyles. A few years ago, you lived where your job was. If your company was in Dallas, you would live in Dallas, and that's just kind of how it worked. And for a lot of people, that's still true. But for a growing segment of the population, the equation changed permanently with remote work right after 2020. It kind of changed and matured. And now that people can genuinely work from anywhere, they're asking, is Dallas the place that I would choose if my job wasn't the reason I'm here? For some people, the answer is still yes. They love it here and they pick Dallas regardless. But for others, the answer is actually that I actually rather be closer to family or near mountains or near a smaller city. And now that they can actually act on that. Another interesting fact, after 2020, we had a lot of people move to the area, but then work requirements changed for a lot of companies and corporations. So that also caused another migration of people leaving DFW now that they moved to the area, maybe because they could work from anywhere and Dallas was that place. The office has called them back to work and that has required them to move or relocate again. So this one, it really isn't just a negative really on Dallas. There is a huge shift in how we started to work after 2020 and after the pandemic. And so we had a lot of remote work, huge workforce labor that was able to work from home. And then we had a lot of shift in that after a few years later. So that kind of caused a lot of changes in whether people decided to stay or leave in Dallas. Number 9 is going to be walkability or the lack thereof. DFW is just really not a walkable city. That's just the honest opinion, especially if you're coming from areas that are super walkable and you can get around. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some places in Dallas that you can actually walk in pretty easily. If you're in Bishop Arts, if you're in Uptown, if you live in the Deep Ellum area, those are a lot of walkable neighborhoods. But in Dallas in general, it's really not that walkable. This is one that I constantly hear from people who moved here from a city with real public transportation like New York, Chicago, DC, or Boston. They did the math on housing, they checked the schools, they liked the job market, they moved, and then they realized that they're in their car for pretty much everything. Dallas is definitely car dependent in a way that can genuinely affect your quality of life, your wallet. Gas is high, insurance is high, and of course now you have to add in cart maintenance. It adds up, and for people who value being able to walk to a coffee shop or hop on the train, it's a real lifestyle difference. Dallas does have the line, the trail line, which is DART. It exists, but it doesn't really reach most of the suburbs where people with families are actually buying homes like Frisco or McKinney. None of those have real access. That's a known limitation and it definitely may not change soon. And I want to be honest about this one because I think people underestimate how much it matters to them until they're living in it. If walkability is something that genuinely you value, then this needs to be a part of your decision. You definitely want to make sure you're focusing on areas that are a little bit more walkable in the urban parts of the metro versus the suburbs. So number 8 is air quality. And this one is not new, but it has gotten worse as the population has grown. Dallas-Fort Worth has an ongoing air quality changes. It's one of those more populated metro areas in the country by the EPA standards, and it regularly fails to meet the federal ozone guidelines. For most people, this isn't a reason to leave on its own, but for people with asthma, allergies, or young kids, it is something that they factor in, and the traffic has increased with the population boom. Thus, the air quality hasn't improved, and it's trending in the other direction. If this is a concern for you and your family, it's worth researching the specific area within DFW. Air quality will vary across the metropolitan area, and some areas are better than others. So number 7 7 on reasons why people might consider leaving DFW is the severe weather. So fun fact, on my way to the studio today, there was lightning everywhere. I was driving in the middle of the storm, so much so my camera and studio guy said, "Are you going to make it?" Because we have severe thunderstorms today, and we're actually in the first week of June. So the severe weather in Texas, it can be kind of all over the place. And if you were in Texas in February 21, you don't need me to explain this one. The winter storm knocked power out across the state for several days. Pipes burst. It was a disaster in a lot of places. And the state's power grid has made a lot of improvements since then, and the grid has held up a little bit better, but the confidence still fully isn't back. And beyond the actual utility and energy grid, Texas weather is generally pretty intense. Hailstorms that can total cars, destroy roofs, tornadoes, flash flooding, and summer heat that now really regularly pushes 110 degrees within the heat index. And people have to really watch their insurance costs as they can kind of go up experiencing some of these things and weather changes in the Dallas area. So quick pause here before we get into the top half of the list, which is where I really get into reasons why people are leaving. So if you're someone who is thinking about moving to Dallas, which you probably are if you're watching this video, that is exactly what I help people work through every single day. You can actually utilize the QR code that is on your screen to book a call directly with me, and we will talk through your specific situation. I'll be honest with you on whether or not I think Dallas is going to be a great move for you and your family. So number 6 on the reason why people are leaving DFW is going to be the overcrowded schools, the roads, and really just the influx of people in DFW. DFW has added over 500,000 new residents in a single year. That kind of growth is extraordinary, and it puts enormous pressure on the infrastructure that was not really built for it. Schools are the biggest pain points I hear about. Districts that are excellent 5 years ago are now kind of overcrowded, and they're having to reassess. You have portable classrooms, wait lists for popular programs, and larger classroom sizes. For families who moved here specifically for schools, that can be really a gut punch depending on the area that you're in. Also too, to add to the population issue, because we've had such an influx of people moving to the area, service availability, finding a good contractor, getting a good restaurant reservation on a Friday, enrolling your kids in an activity, everything is more competitive because hundreds of thousands of people are trying to do the same things at the same time. Another big piece of this is also going to be roads. On the other hand, the construction that is supposed to fix the traffic is causing traffic while it's being built. And that's so typical and normal here. They will literally build out a whole nother highway while they're building the other highway, and it causes a lot of traffic and a lot of backup. Longtime DFW residents feel this the most. What they loved about the place, the space, and the breathing room, the ease has become a little bit harder to find. And some of them are moving to smaller Texas cities to kind of find that slower pace again. So number 5 on one of the reasons why people are leaving DFW is going to be the cost of living. It's not what it used to be. In my original video, I talked about rising costs, and since then it's gotten more pronounced. The DFW that was known for affordable alternative to coastal cities is still more affordable for sure than say places like New York or LA, but the gap has narrowed quite a bit. And for people comparing it to other Texas cities or mid-sized metropolitan areas, it is a completely different conversation now. Median home prices in the Dallas metro are sitting around $485,000. Groceries for sure have gone up. Childcare is a little bit more expensive, and utilities in the summer, running your AC throughout Texas or August can easily run up to $400 a month. People who moved here in 2018, 2019 locked in a very important price point, and people arriving now experience a very different Dallas than the one that you have heard about. And some residents who watched prices climb for the last 5 years are doing the math and realizing that their money goes a little bit further somewhere else. So the number 4th reason why people may be leaving DFW is going to be property taxes. And it is so funny because I'm still having this conversation with some of my new relocators into the area about that property tax bill. Texas has no state income taxes. That's real. That's a benefit. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. It's a huge savings for people. But what a lot of people didn't fully account for when they moved here is the property tax rate and how dramatically it adds up and increases over time with your home value. Texas property taxes average between 1.7 up to 2.7% depending on your county. And on a $500,000 home, which is close to the median right now, you're looking at around $8,500 to $11,000 per year in property taxes. And that's a $700 to nearly $1,000 a month on top of your mortgage. And every year that county appraises your home, if values went up in DFW, then they can actually raise your taxes. Now, if you have a homestead, there's a little bit of protection there, and the county can only go up by a certain cap, but a lot of people are still experiencing real increases year over year. When you layer that on top of everything else, insurance, utilities, HOA fees, some people run the math and realize that the no income tax advantage is really just offset. That's a conversation that I have with my clients regularly. It's one that you should be having before you make the decision, one way or the other, on whether or not Dallas is going to be a good fit for you. So the number 3 reason on my list why people are leaving DFW is going to be home insurance costs are kind of out of control. Home insurance in Texas has gone up dramatically. We're talking 30% to 40%, in some cases 50% increases over the past 2 to 3 years. Some carriers have left the state entirely. Others are non-renewing policies or adding massive deductibles for wind and hail. And it's really because Texas get hit a lot with hailstorms and thunderstorms. The 2021 freeze that I talked about earlier cost billions in claims. Tornado and flood events happen every year, and insurers are pricing that risk into the premiums, and Texas are absorbing that cost. I talked to homeowners paying $4,000 to $5,000, even $6,000 a year in homeowners insurance, and that is for a $400,000 to $500,000 home. And when you add that to the mortgage and property taxes, the monthly number can really get up there pretty fast. And when renewal time comes with a 40% increase, some people decide that it's just really not a good fit for them. This one is generally important factor if you're buying here. Ask about insurance costs for your home because you are considering before you close. When you're working with me, I want to make sure that my lender, as well as any insurance partners, make sure they have an accurate estimate for how much your homeowner's insurance is going to cost on an annual basis. So number 2 on the list, I've kind of hit on it a little bit already, is going to be the traffic. Dallas traffic. Traffic in DFW is generally worse than it was a year ago. The highway system is being expanded, but the expansion creates its own congestion while the highway is actually underway. I-35, Highway 21, the Dallas North Tollway, it doesn't matter. It is significantly congested all the time. The average DFW commute is now 30 minutes each way. In some of the outer suburbs where people move to find affordable housing, it's 45 minutes to an hour into the city. And that's time that you're not getting back. And it's not just highways, construction everywhere, road closures, infrastructure that was designed for a much smaller population now serving a much larger one is catching up, but it's slow. I just did a video talking about all the development that's going on here in DFW, and I honestly think that they bring in these $1 million of development and investment, but they do not think about the highways at all. And if they do, it's 5 to 10 years later where they're trying to catch up. People who have been here for a long time remember when it wasn't like this, that the comparison is what's pushing some of them out. They came here for a little bit more ease, and now it's just completely different Dallas. So the number 1 reason why people are leaving DFW, and I don't think I talked about this one in my last video, but it's definitely going to be the value equation has shifted, and people are noticing, as you should. Everything I've talked about today, property taxes, insurance, traffic, housing costs, and even the overcrowding. Individually, most people can absorb 1 or 2 of these things. What's changed is that they all moved at the same time in the same direction. So the value proposition that made Dallas-Fort Worth so compelling for so many people was affordable housing, low taxes, strong job market, and good schools, and a little bit of room to breathe. For a lot of people, that's still true, for sure. DFW is still a net positive for migration and relocationers. More people are still moving in than they're moving out. But again, that margin has narrowed. And for people who are leaving, what I'm hearing most often is a version of this. We did the math and we can get more for less somewhere else. Not always, not for everyone, but for enough people that is showing up in the data. The most common destinations and smaller Texas cities cities. If you're looking for something a little bit slower, maybe places like Grand Prairie, Tyler, Texas, or even Brenham. People staying in Texas, but stepping off the growth treadmill. Houston is also pulling from DFW. It's a different metro, different feel and vibe, and similar job market. And some people are leaving Texas entirely, headed to Tennessee, California, or even Florida. What I want you to take from this video is not that DFW is in trouble by any means, it's not. But the days of being an automatic slam dunk for people are kind of behind us. It's a market that requires more intentionality in decision making now, which areas hold their value, where the schools are still strong, how to structure your home purchase so you are protected from high insurance and over tax exposure is really where the strategy matters. So DFW is really still a great place to move. I am helping clients like you every single day move to the DFW area, but I wanted to make this video so that I'm being really, really honest and I'm not sugarcoating some of the cons that come with a major metropolitan area. And I'm sure you know that most metropolitan areas have pros and cons. Not most, all of them have pros and cons. And so I wanted to make sure if you are considering a move to Dallas that you have the true cons and some of the reasons why people are deciding to leave. So that's my updated top 10, the short version. DFW is still a strong market, but it's a different market than it was 2 or 3 years ago. The costs have gone up, infrastructure is strained a little bit. People are doing a little bit more careful analysis than they used to. But if you are already here and you're weighing your options, I'm happy to talk through this with you based on your realistic and specific situation. And if you are thinking about moving here and you want an honest picture, same thing, book a strategy call. The link is on your screen with a QR code or in your description box. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.